Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment and regretted it for years? Have you ever let one moment of anger destroy the peace of an entire day or even a relationship? Have you ever reacted instead of responding and later wished you had just paused? Every one of us has. Even the wisest among us have faced that split-second moment when emotions scream louder than reason. But here's the truth. Mastery over life begins with mastery over the moment. And if you can master your inner world in the heat of chaos, then no outer world can disturb your peace. We are not here today to simply learn how to control anger, irritation, or frustration. No, that would be too small a goal. We are here to learn something much greater. How to take back the remote control of our life from circumstances and place it in the hands of our higher self, which is deeply connected to the divine. In this noisy, reactive world, everyone is so quick to reply, to argue, to prove, to justify. But rarely do we pause, rarely do we connect with God before we connect with our words. That's where the power lies, in the pause, in the silence, in the awareness of the present moment. Responding is not weakness. Responding is a sign of inner strength. Reacting is automatic, but responding is spiritual. When we react, we give our power away to emotions, situations, and people. But when we respond, we reclaim that power. And God wants us to live from a place of power, peace, and presence, not chaos, confusion, and regret. There's a power that exists in the space between stimulus and response. That brief pause, so small that it's almost invisible, holds the secret to inner mastery. In that moment, we either choose to react, led by our emotions, or we choose to respond, led by wisdom. The pause is not just silence, it is strength. It is not just waiting, it is awakening. And this one pause, practiced consistently, can transform your relationships, your decisions, and your spiritual journey. Imagine a simple moment in your daily life. You've just had a long, exhausting day. You come home, and the smallest inconvenience. Maybe someone left the dishes undone. Maybe the room is messy, or someone spoke to you harshly, immediately triggers a wave of irritation inside you. The mind starts racing. Why can't they be more responsible? Why do I always have to be the one who fixes everything? That's the moment, the exact moment, where most of us react. We raise our voice. We speak without thinking. We let frustration take over, and our words come out like arrows. And later, when the storm passes, we look back and wonder, was it really worth it? Now let's rewind that same scenario. Everything is the same. The exhaustion, the mess, the tension. But this time, when the emotion rises, you pause. You take a breath. You feel the heat, but you don't allow it to boil over. Instead, you connect with your breath, with your awareness, with God. You take just 3 seconds to center yourself. And from that pause, a new perspective arises. You realize maybe the other person was also tired. Maybe the mess isn't a personal attack. Maybe peace is more valuable than proving a point. You speak, not to blame but to understand. And in that small shift, everything changes. That's the miracle of a pause. This doesn't come from weakness. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or letting others walk all over you. In fact, it's the opposite. The pause is not a retreat, it is an advancement inward. It's where you reclaim your authority over your mind. The ability to pause is a sign that you are not a slave to your emotions. You are the master of them. We all want peaceful lives. But peace is not something that happens accidentally. It's not gifted to you by the world. It's cultivated from within. And the pause is where peace is born. Every time you choose to pause instead of react, you're watering the seed of inner peace. And over time, this seed blossoms into calmness, clarity, and connection, not just with people, but with God. Because in the pause, you're not just calming down, you're tuning in. You're creating space for God to guide you. When we react, it's usually our ego that speaks first. But when we pause, it's the voice of the soul that whispers. And the soul always whispers in harmony with the divine. You might ask, but how do I pause when everything inside me is boiling? The answer is simple, but not easy practice. Begin with awareness. Notice the moments when you feel triggered, and instead of immediately responding, take one breath. Just one. Feel the breath go in, feel it go out, and in that breath silently ask, what would wisdom do? What would peace say? What would God want from me in this moment? Sometimes it's not even about what you say, it's about what you don't say. Silence can be more powerful than words. And that silence, when chosen mindfully, has the power to prevent damage, to preserve dignity, and to protect love. Think of a time when someone reacted at you, maybe yelled, blamed, or accused you. How did it make you feel? Did it resolve anything? Most likely not. Now think of a time when someone responded with calmness, even when they were hurt. That moment probably stayed with you longer. It likely earned your respect. Why? Because that person chose the higher path. They chose the pause. They chose God over ego. We admire those who can stay calm under pressure, not because they are passive, but because they are powerful. And true power always resides in stillness. Fire may look intense, but it burns and destroys. Water, on the other hand, flows quietly, yet it shapes landscapes. Be like water, calm, deep, and capable of great change, not through force, but through presence. Emotion is like the weather. It changes rapidly, comes uninvited, and sometimes leaves a mess behind. But here's the truth that very few recognize in the heat of the moment. Emotion is always temporary, but regret often lingers far longer. We've all experienced it. A harsh word spoken in anger, a decision made in impatience, or a reaction fueled by ego. They all come from moments when emotion ruled over clarity. And once those emotions fade, we're left staring at the damage they caused. That's when regret walks in. Quiet, heavy, and hard to forget. Think about it. How many times in your life have you wished you could go back just 5 minutes and undo what you said? How many nights have you spent replaying a conversation in your mind, wondering, why did I react like that? That's the weight of regret. And it never comes before the reaction. It always arrives after the damage is done. Now, imagine this, you're sitting at the dining table and a family member says something that instantly pokes your pride. It's not even what they said, but how they said it. That toming, that tension. Your chest tightens. Your face heats up. You can feel the words climbing up your throat, ready to be fired like bullets. But something inside you whispers, pause. You take a breath. The emotion doesn't disappear immediately. No. But it starts to lose its grip on you. And you choose not to speak. Not yet. You go for a walk. You breathe. You observe your thoughts like clouds passing through the sky. You let the storm pass within you instead of throwing it at someone else. And hours later, when the storm has cleared, you look back and feel a deep sense of peace. You didn't give in. You didn't create more pain. You rose above it, and more than that, you saved yourself from the long, heavy shadow of regret. Emotions are part of being human. Anger, jealousy, fear, sadness, they all come and go. They are visitors. But we must remember, not every visitor deserves to be fed. Not every emotion deserves to be acted upon. The wise don't suppress emotions. They observe them, feel them, but don't let them lead. The untrained mind reacts immediately. The trained heart pauses, processes, and then responds from a higher place. When you understand the temporary nature of emotion, it becomes easier to choose patience. Even the fiercest anger melts with time. Even the sharpest pain softens. But the wise being chosen, but the words we speak in those intense moments, they don't fade as fast. They leave impressions. They create scars, not just on others, but within us. Because deep down, we all wish to be kind. We all long to be peaceful. We all want to be in harmony with the people we love. But emotion can hijack that vision if we let it. That's why we must hold on to the awareness that emotion is like a wave. If you can ride it without drowning in it, you will reach the shore stronger and wiser. There is a story of a monk who was once insulted publicly by a man full of rage. The man shouted, accused, and hurled words of hatred. But the monk stood calm, listening silently. After the man finished, the monk smiled and asked, "If someone brings you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man replied, "To the one who brought it." The monk said, "Exactly. I do not accept your anger, so it stays with you." What an incredible lesson in spiritual maturity. The monk understood that emotions from others don't have to enter your heart unless you invite them. Similarly, the emotions rising within us don't have to dictate our words or actions unless we give them that power. Power lies not in reacting strongly, but in responding wisely. We live in a time where reacting quickly is seen as strength, but real strength is in stillness. Real intelligence is in patience. And real love is in choosing not to hurt even when you're hurting. It takes inner mastery to hold yourself in the fire of emotion without burning everything around you. So the next time you feel a strong wave of anger or sadness, remind yourself, this will pass. Don't act from the peak of the wave. Wait until you return to the shore. Let the emotion move you like wind through a window. Feel it, learn from it, but don't hold on to it. Because the more you learn to observe emotions rather than obey them, the more freedom you experience. In life, we often find ourselves standing at a crossroads. The moment right after something triggers us. A harsh comment, an unfair situation, a broken expectation. And standing at that junction, we are faced with a silent but powerful choicing. Do we blame the situation for how we feel, or do we take responsibility for how we respond? It is in this exact moment that a quiet truth emerges. Your reaction is your responsibility. Not the world's, not the situation's, not the other person's, yours. And this truth, once embraced, becomes one of the most liberating principles of life. It's natural to think people make us angry, that life makes us stressed, or that someone's words hurt us. But the deeper truth is their actions might trigger something, but the storm that follows, that belongs to us. That is ours to understand, to process, and most importantly, to own. We may not be able to control the stimulus, but we always have a choice in how we respond. And it's this choice that defines not just our character, but our destiny. Imagine being in a traffic jam on a day when you're already running late. Someone cuts you off suddenly, and instinctively, your hand moves to the horn, your mouth prepares a few angry words, and your heart races. In that moment, it feels completely justified. After all, how dare they be so careless? But if you pause for just a second and ask yourself, will this reaction solve anything? Will this bring peace or just prolong my frustration? The answer becomes clear. Reacting might give a temporary release of emotion, but it rarely brings resolution. On the other hand, choosing not to react gives you something even greater: control over your inner world. This isn't about becoming passive or silent when things go wrong. It's about understanding that reacting emotionally gives away your power to the very person or situation that disturbed you. It's like handing the remote control of your happiness to someone else and saying, "Here, press whatever button you like." Why would we ever allow that? Yet unknowingly, we do it every day. By blaming, by shouting, by arguing, by letting the outer world govern our inner peace. Taking responsibility for your reaction doesn't mean the world is perfect. It doesn't doesn't mean people won't test your patience or situations won't be unfair. What it means is that you are no longer a puppet in the hands of circumstances. You become an aware, empowered soul. One who chooses their words with wisdom, their actions with alignment, and their emotions with maturity. And when you begin to live this way, you start noticing something remarkable. Your peace no longer depends on how others behave. It begins to rest solely on how you choose to show up. There's a deep spiritual strength in this, because the moment you stop blaming and start taking ownership, you move closer to the divine. God doesn't give us problems so we can react with anger or fear. He gives us challenges so we can grow, so we can rise, so we can strengthen our soul through practice. And that practice often begins in everyday moments, not in temples or mountains, but in our homes, at our workplaces, in our families. It begins when someone irritates us, when plans don't go our way, when life doesn't meet our expectations. That's where spiritual growth begins, in the simple yet profound choice to respond with awareness instead of reacting with emotion. Have you ever seen someone stay calm in a situation where most would lose control? Maybe a teacher handling an aggressive student, a parent calmly guiding a misbehaving child, or even a friend who listens to criticism without flaring up. We admire those people, not because they are perfect, but because they are powerful. And their power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering themselves. That's the beauty of taking responsibility for your reaction. It builds something within you that no one can take away. It develops a kind of inner muscle, a strength that becomes your quiet anchor in the chaos of life. And the more you practice this, the less you'll be thrown off by small disturbances. Slowly, you begin to see things differently. You stop reacting to every opinion, every insult, every delay. You begin to realize that peace is far too precious to be sacrificed for temporary emotional release.